Show. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's John Campea, and this is a companion video. What is a companion video? Well, I'm glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show and when we do open mics, we save time to take live questions, but we don't always have time to get around to all of the live questions that come in. So when we don't have time, I gather up those unused questions because I want to make sure they get answered in a video, and I bring them over here and we address them in a companion video. So let's not waste any time and let's get right into getting caught up on these questions. And we're going to start with a question that came in from Stubble McShave, who wrote, "People's reaction to Lolita and The Graduate is interesting. It's basically just a swap of gender age roles, but our reactions are, oh no, Stubble, you're very, very, very wrong. I have to radically if you think that Lolita and The Graduate are just basically the same movie with gender role swap, you gotta watch the movies again. They are very, very different movies. Like I cannot even, it's kind of like the other day on the show when somebody said, well, Spider-Man and Daredevil are the same because they both wear red suits, right? No, they're completely different characters with completely different backstories, completely different backgrounds, completely different power sets, completely different everything. But you're saying they're the same because they wear the red suit. Like, to say that's kind of the same thing in saying that Lolita and The Graduate are anywhere remotely similar to each other, because I got to completely disagree with you on that one, my friend. Go back and watch them again because they're very, very different than that. And man, God, go back. How young does Dustin Hoffman look in The Graduate, by the way? Like, holy crap. Anyway, Tin Trong writes, Justice League tried to turn Bruce Wayne into Tony Stark. I can see where you're coming from on that. Do you think Zack Snyder's original version would have kept him on the darker side / closer to the BVS version? No. That was a direction that Zack was already kind of going in. They had already decided that they were going in that direction. So that was something they were doing even before Zack left / was removed from Justice League and Joss Whedon came in. So that was already something they were doing, which is a damn shame. I like Justice League, I do, but the Batman we got in Batman vs. Superman, to me, is my favorite on-screen Batman we've ever had. It was the most true to the spirit of Batman that we've ever seen before. And I loved him. And then, then they turned him into something completely different. They just went in a different direction. I don't know whose influence that was the most, but it's unfortunate because I like Justice League, I do, but there are some big problems with it. And to me, what they did with the Bruce Wayne character in that was definitely one of the big problems. But no, I think that was the direction they're going in, with or without Zack Snyder, to be honest with you. All right, next up, Miles McCullum writes, Avatar needs to come out in cinema before number 2. Oh, I disagree. There was a day when that would make more sense. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against it. But it's like, people need to get caught up again on Avatar. Well, you can just sit at home now with your remote control, and in a couple of clicks, you can have Avatar on your TV. You don't need to book a babysitter and drive a few miles and, buy movie tickets, but you don't have to do that to watch Avatar again. You can be watching Avatar in 3 minutes. If you're sitting in front of your TV or your computer, in 3 minutes, you could be watching Avatar. So there used to be an age when, if you wanted people to get caught up again before the movie comes out, do a big screen version of it. And you could do that with Avatar. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, they do that with the MCU films, but needs to come out? Nah, I don't think they need to do that. Again, I'm not against it if they do, but the concept that they need to do that, not today, when anybody tonight, if they really want to watch Avatar again and get caught up, all they have to do is go click, click, and they're watching Avatar again. And again, I acknowledge that, hey, it works for some things. Harry Potter did it. The MCU does it, yada, yada, yada. I get it, and I'm not against those. But the notion that you need to do it, I'm just going to disagree with that. All right, Daniel Castro writes, Hey, John, this was a great week for movies. We had Creed 2 and Wreck-It Ralph 2. Which one will win the box office? Well, this was a question that obviously came out before last weekend when they did come out. But, I mean, I could have said the same thing before. The tracking always had Wreck-It Ralph far above Creed 2. We knew Wreck-It Ralph was going to win the box office. That was never in doubt. That was never a question. Wreck-It Ralph. The only question was, how much would it beat Creed by? And they both did well. I believe Wreck-It Ralph came in around 55 million. Creed 2 came in about 35 million. Both of those are up from their original film. So Wreck-It Ralph went up. Wreck-It Ralph's opening weekend, Wreck-It Ralph 2's opening weekend was bigger than the original Wreck-It Ralph's opening weekend. And Creed 2's opening weekend of $35 million was up from the original Creed's opening weekend, which was opened at $29 million. So both of them, the studios were happy. They saw increases. Everybody won, but yeah, we always knew that Wreck-It Ralph would make more. I mean, that was just kind of obvious that was going to happen. Amy Artist writes, what are your thoughts on how Supernatural's hit 300th episode? It's crazy. Because, look, it's always been one of my favorite little shows. For almost 10 years, Supernatural, but John, it's been around 14 seasons. Yeah, but I didn't get on board with it till about season 4. Season 3 or season 4, somewhere around there is when I got on board with Supernatural. But it's been one of my, I don't know if you want to call guilty pleasure or not, but it's been one of my favorite little shows to watch on TV for almost 10 years. That show hitting 14 seasons? Inconceivable. To quote Vincini from Princess Bride, inconceivable. It's inconceivable that show would hit 14 seasons. It's nutty. And they just keep on rolling. And they just find a way to keep it interesting and us loving hanging out with the Dean brothers, hanging out with the Winchester brothers, and they just always do it. It's amazing. I'm just grateful it's still a show that's on TV because I still enjoy watching it. I still am very entertained by it, and I still love hanging out with Sam and Dean Winchester once a week and just hanging out with those boys. Whatever the storyline of the season is almost secondary to me. I just like hanging out with those guys on the screen. You know what I mean? So I'm thrilled for it. Very, very few shows in history have hit 300 episodes. So, yeah, put that one down in the record books. All right, Stella McShave writes, do you think we'll see a remake of Starship Troopers? I don't know. It's not like Starship Troopers was an all-time greatest hit. You know what I mean? It certainly has a little bit of a cult following, that's for sure. How much did the original Starship Troopers make at the box office? Hold a second. Starship Troopers box office. Let's see here. Yeah, the original Starship Troopers made $121 million worldwide. It made $54 million domestically, $66 million foreign for $121 million on a $105 million budget. So it lost money. It actually lost a bunch of money. But it does have a little bit of a cult following. I don't know, because a Starship Troopers is going to be fairly big budget. Like this movie came out in 1997 with a $105 million budget. That was a big budget for that time. It's middle of the road today, but at the time, 97, that was a huge budget. Would it? I don't know. I mean, let's put it this way. Were they to do a Starship Troopers reboot, I'd go see it. I'd be down for it. But if I was a studio head, would I greenlight it? Probably not. You'd have to make a really compelling case that enough people would go to see it, and I just don't think you can make that case. So the fan of me wouldn't mind seeing it. The business side of me was like, nah, I wouldn't greenlight that thing, not if it was my money. Victor Watson writes, John, did you know that John Candy started out on Second City Television? Absolutely, I knew that. I was in the 7th grade, and a few other people, it was funny. Oh, SCTV, or Second City Television, it was known as SCTV, was some of the most hilarious crap ever. SCTV was great. With Dave Thomas, Rick Moranis, Joe Flaherty, Eugene Levy, John Candy, I mean, on and on. It just was, Martin Short was SCTV. It just was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. A lot of the stuff they did was way ahead of its time, and it was very low budget. It was super low budget, and it just relied on this incredible group of comedians' humor to make the show work. And John Candy was one of them. And I always loved it. I loved SCTV. I mean, I was just a little kid, but I used to love watching SCTV. Let's see here. Victor follows up with, I do not want Hollywood to even touch Redemption 2. I'm playing it now. It's really good. I'm assuming you mean Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't know. Why not? This is my question for anybody that says, I don't want Hollywood to make a movie of this game, or I don't want Hollywood to make a reboot of this movie. Why? Give me a good reason. Because they'll ruin it. That's not a reason. That's what you predicted result would be, but so what if they did? So what if they tried making a Red Dead Redemption 2, and so what if they ruined it? Do you think that somehow affects the video game? It doesn't. And it's the same discussion I would have with people when we're talking about reboots. I don't want them to reboot that classic because the original's perfect. Well, so what? What does that have to do with anything? You do a remake. Studies have proved that when you make a remake, interest in the original goes up. It's been proven. That's not debatable. It's been proven over and over again. When you do reboot, whether or not the reboot's good, interest and attention on the original film goes up. Awareness of the original films go up. Nothing bad happens. Some people act like if you do a reboot of an original great movie, that original great movie just disappears and goes away. Nobody can ever watch it again. Not true. So who cares? Who cares if they make a Red Dead Redemption 2 and it sucks? Who cares? Who cares? It doesn't make your video game disappear, right? The only thing is this, though. See, if I'm the head of the game studio and I've owned the IP for Red Dead Redemption 2, understanding that basically all video game movies in history have always sucked, I would be hesitant to leasing out the rights for any movie studio to do a movie version because it may damage the IP. It may damage what people think of when they think of Red Dead Redemption. And that could affect not my game that's out right now, but maybe it could affect future games. You know, if a Red Dead Redemption movie comes out and it sucks and it sours some people's opinion of the Red Dead Redemption brand, it's not going to hurt anything on Red Dead Redemption 2, but what it might do, and I say might, what it might do though, is turn some people off of the idea of buying Red Dead Redemption 3 whenever it comes out. It shouldn't, because the game's the game, the movie's the movie, but maybe it will. So I don't know. I would have no problem if they made a movie. I'm just saying, if I was the guy who's in charge, I would probably be hesitant. And if a couple studios really wanted to make it, I would have to hear a really great pitch from a studio saying, this is our vision for it. This is our director. This is where we're going to go with it. We got this incredible screenwriter and this is our pitch. And I would have to love it. And if that happened, maybe I'd go for it. Or maybe not. We'd have to wait and see. All right, Victor follows up with, 2 of my shows got canceled. One is Grimm. I love Bitsy Tulloch. I don't know if I'm pronouncing Bitsy's name correctly. Just fine. She is beautiful, man. She is absolutely beautiful and talented. Or, yeah, the other is Timeless, but 2-hour movie in December. I never watched Timeless. I loved Grimm, did not love the final season. And to be honest, every year that Grimm got renewed, I was surprised. Because I didn't know anybody else was watching it. Seriously, nobody I knew was watching Grimm. I was the only guy I knew that was watching Grimm. And I enjoyed it a lot, except for the last season. The last season kind of spun out of control a bit, but whatever. And I really enjoyed that show. But I was so turned off by the final season that I was actually okay with them pulling the plug on it. But Timeless is one I never saw. And actually, I don't think I know anybody that's watched it either. But when it got canceled, I heard some people upset about it. So, I mean, there's that. But yeah, I thought I heard something about a Timeless movie coming. Like, I don't know if it's that TV thing or what. I'm not really sure about it. But as a fan, I'm glad you're getting some a chance to revisit it. I'm glad you're getting a chance to revisit it, Victor. All right, Victor follows up again. Pokemon Detective Pikachu is going to be a big hit in 2019. Just me. I got a feeling the trailer's great. I'm still not willing to say that. But here's the interesting thing. Don't just say big hit. Give me a number. Because I talk to some people, right? And they go, Bumblebee's going to be a flop. Okay, but don't say flop. Put a number to it. Are you saying, what's a flop? Are you going to say 300 million's a flop? Like if it makes 300 million, is that a flop? Don't just say flop, say a number. Like, are you saying, because somebody told me, I remember I had this specific discussion with somebody who said that Fantastic Beasts 2, because Johnny Depp's in it, is going to be a big flop, right? I said, well, no. Don't just say flop. Be specific. How much do you think it's going to make? Do you think, are you saying Fantastic Beasts isn't going to make $300 million? Well, it'll probably make $300 million. Well, if it makes over $300 million, is it a flop? It's because it's getting close. At $300 million, it's starting to get close to breaking even. So you're just saying flop for the sake of it? You're just saying flop as a word? Flop, 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 flop. It doesn't really mean anything? No. Be specific. For you, what dollar value does it need to make for you to say that it's a flop? Don't just say flop. Anybody can just say that and then cover their tracks later. Give me a number. Don't just say flop. Give me a number. Now, of course, Fantastic Beasts 2. Fantastic Beasts 2. Hold on a second. I misspelt it. I already know it's super profitable already. Fantastic Beasts 2, The Crimes of Grindelwald. Fantastic Beasts 2, The Crimes of Grindelwald has already made $470 million worldwide. Now, there are going to be some who look at that and go, well, then it flopped. How so? Well, it's the lowest grossing of the Harry Potter movies. That doesn't matter if it's the lowest grossing of the Harry Potter movies. It's not a flop. This thing's going to crawl over $500 million. It's going to probably end up around $550 million, maybe closer to $600 million. That means even at a really expensive price tag, this movie is profitable. You cannot say a movie that is profitable is a flop. Well, if you look at it, like, no, don't give me any of this if you look at it this way bullshit. If a movie makes money and makes profit, it is not a flop. Sorry, it's not. You can say it's disappointing. You can say maybe even it underperformed. You can use those other words, yes, but you cannot say flop. A movie that makes the studio money is not a flop. It's a success. Maybe it's an underwhelming success. Maybe it's a success yet a little bit disappointing compared to what it should be. That's fine. So, Victor, what I want to challenge you, my friend, is don't just say big hit. Give me a number. You know, next time you're writing in something like that, give me a number. Don't just say big hit. Tell me what you think it's going to make. Do you think Pikachu is going to be a $700 million movie? Or maybe you think it's going to be a $600 million. Maybe you think it's going to be a $500 million. Maybe you think it's going to be an $800 million. I don't know. Have to wait and see. I don't think Pikachu is going to be that big of a hit. I think it'll be a moneymaker. I think the 500 million range is a realistic thing. I think that's a realistic thing. And please don't give me, John, you don't get it. Pokemon is so popular. Yeah. I heard that when Dragon Ball was coming out. I heard that when Last Airbender was coming out. I heard that when Ghost in a Shell was coming out. John, you just don't get how popular it is around the world. Yeah. I've heard that a million times. Heard it a million times. You know, when there was some talk, I remember when there was talk about what's the name of the show? Arrested Development. There was some talk years ago about maybe doing an Arrested Development movie. And I'm like, that's not a movie that'll make any money. Because there's a reason they canceled the show. It wouldn't make any money. Everybody's, John, you don't get it. You don't get how popular the show's become on home video. It's got a huge following, blah, blah, blah. And guess what happened? They put it on Netflix. And even Netflix, even though Netflix doesn't release numbers, but even they say, yeah, it didn't do the type of numbers we thought. It didn't blow our socks off, you know. It didn't give us, you know, House of Cards numbers or anything like that. They basically came out and admitted that. So, I mean, I've just heard for year after year, every single year, there's some property and a bunch of people, like some people like myself say, I don't know how big it could be. And there's always a big group of people go, so you don't understand, John. This thing's so popular around the world. It's going to be huge. And then it doesn't perform. It happens over and over and over and over and over again. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with Pikachu. Because I'm one of those guys that was actually pretty impressed with the trailer. That trailer was much better than I thought it was going to be. And it put a grin on my face. And I actually went from not giving two squirts of piss about Pikachu to being actually kind of fascinated to watch it. I'm down with Pikachu. I am totally down with watching Pikachu now. But how big can it be? I don't know. I'm not willing. I'll put 500 million on the table, which makes it a hit. I'll put it on the table. I wouldn't be comfortable saying 700 million or 900 million or, some kind of ridiculous number like that. But hey, we'll have to get closer to the movie's release. Who knows? Maybe it's the greatest movie of the year and it'll get super legs and that'll change things. We're just going to have to honestly get a little bit closer. We'll have to see how that goes, Victor. All right. Thanks for writing in, man. Jeff Fortner writes, North by Northwest or Vertigo, two Hitchcockian classics. You know what? It all depends on the day you ask me. It all depends on the day you ask me. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised. I think somebody might have asked me this question before, but I think they asked me like North by Northwest, Vertigo, Birds, and maybe one other one. And I think I might have said Vertigo at the time, but I just watched North by Northwest again just a few weeks ago. So right now I'm on a North by Northwest kick. So today I will say North by Northwest, but it really depends on the day that you catch me. Blake Carson writes, it's pointless since Maher, talking about Bill Maher, probably talking about the comments he made about Stan Lee, only cares what he thinks. He's elitist trash and his comments were distasteful. No, his comments weren't distasteful. Unwarranted. Everybody's comments are unwarranted. Condescending. Yeah, they were a little condescending. And hypocritical. No, there was nothing hypocritical about his comments. Look, you guys know what I think about his comments. About Stan Lee. Personally, I think everybody was just looking for somebody to be mad at. Stan Lee died. We all felt bad. And I think for the most part, all of us were just looking for somebody to take it out on. And all it took was somebody just to say the slightest wrong thing, and we were going to gang up on them. Bill Maher, here's the thing. Bill Maher didn't even make those comments on his show. He didn't, go into Times Square in New York, grab a microphone and go, listen up, everybody. You're all overvaluing Stan Lee. I mean, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but all he did was make comic books, and comic books aren't for adults, they're for children. It's not like he did that. He wrote it on his blog. The only reason you even know about what Bill Maher wrote, and I don't understand why anybody cares about what he wrote. I haven't cared about anything Bill Maher has said in decades. I don't think anybody should care about what he says about anything, but that's just my opinion. But let's be frank here. The only reason you even know about his comments wasn't because you read his blog. You don't. It's because somebody else saw his stuff and thought, ooh, this is tantalizing. Let's take what he wrote on his blog and talk about it to everybody else. He wrote it on his blog. He didn't grab a soapbox in the middle of Times Square. He didn't get on national TV and say it. He didn't do anything. No. He wrote it on his blog. So again, I got to ask, who cares? Why are we even talking about it? Honestly, why are we even talking about it? Did you know that there's some guy somewhere who thinks something differently than what I think? Outrage! And he didn't even say anything that off color. Did I like what he said? No. Do I think what he said was stupid? Yeah. But I'm not going to think about it again until somebody brings it up like you just did. I'm not even going to give it a second thought because who cares? If we're going to get all bent out of shape every time we find out somebody somewhere has an opinion about something that is different from our own, we're in for a rough life, man. We're in for a rough life. Now, again, why anybody at any point decided to give any importance or any weight to something Bill Maher said about the comic book industry and Stan Lee is completely beyond me, other than I think people were just looking for somebody to dump on. And Maher made himself, I keep wanting to call him Maher. He's not John Maher. Maher just made himself an easy target. And that's his own fault. But honestly, I just would want to challenge anybody who makes a big deal out of it to say, why are we even talking about this? Why do you care what Bill Maher said about the comic book industry and said about what he thinks the maturity level of comic book? Who cares? Who's Bill Maher to us? He's not a movie personality. He's not a daily guy who works in the film industry. He's not a guy making movies. He's basically a political comedian. Who cares what he said? Why are we talking about this? And I would want to challenge everybody to say, why don't you should probably ask yourself, why am I letting this get to me so much? And I think the bottom line is because we're just really mad. Deep down, we're mad that Stan Lee died. And we decided that we just needed a target. And we were just looking for anybody to make themselves a target. We were looking for anyone to make themselves a target. Bill Maher made himself a target, so we all decided to gang up on it. And that's what it is. And guess what? I did the same thing. I talked about this on my show the other day. I did the same thing with Armie Hammer. And I realized after it that, you know what? It's just the fan part of me that was hurt because of the passing of Stan Lee. And I was just looking at somebody to take it out on. Because Armie Hammer got on Twitter to dump on people who were posting, and dump on celebrities who were posting pictures of themselves with Stan Lee. And, made some, and it was, Armie Hammer made a stupid comment. He said like, oh, you guys are just really good tribute to Stan Lee by posting pictures of yourself with him. And I think I was like everybody else. The fan part of me was grieving the passing of Stan Lee, and I was mad about it, and I was just looking for somebody to take it out on, and I was just looking for someone to make themselves a target. Armie Hammer made himself a target, so I wrote this kind of scathing tweet back at Armie Hammer, and I'm an Armie Hammer fan, for heaven's sakes. But I wrote this scathing tweet back at Armie Hammer, and it was like the top tweet response in his Twitter thing, because like 1,000 or 2,000 of you guys liked the tweet, but I basically said, hey, thanks a lot, Armie, for telling everybody how they're supposed to grieve. Sharing a picture, putting up a picture saying this is one of my most treasured pictures, and that's your way of honoring him. Thanks for making yourself the judge, Armie, of how other people should grieve. Way to go, hotshot. Like, I was being pretty venomous, and I was kind of mean. I'm just going to admit it. I was kind of mean. And I regretted it afterwards. I did. I regretted it afterwards. But I just made him a target. And I think everybody did the exact same thing with Bill Maher. I really do. Yeah, but John, no. Stop making excuses about why you feel good being outraged. I get it. It's a human thing. I get it. But it doesn't make it any different. It doesn't change the situation. That some guy who wrote something on his blog who has nothing to do with us or our fan community made some comments about something that's his opinion, and a guy we never pay attention to otherwise, now we suddenly decide to pay attention. It's stupid. It's dumb. Who cares what Bill Maher said? Let's move on. Anyway, ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes, do you think The Punisher will return in Daredevil Season 4? Well, clearly this was something you wrote in before we found out there is no Daredevil Season 4. Yeah, there's no Daredevil Season 4, and there's not going to be Daredevil Season 4. Not on Netflix, not on Disney+, nowhere. The show's done. Finito, period. Finished. Doesn't mean the character is done. I think we're going to get a rebooted Daredevil. I think we're going to get a new incarnation of Daredevil in the MCU. That's my guess. I'm not saying I've got an inside source saying that I don't. That's my fan speculation. But they have made it pretty clear the show is done. It's not being moved over to Disney Plus and anything like that. But yeah, I'd say it's a pretty low chance that Punisher shows up in Daredevil Season 4, since there's not going to be a Daredevil Season 4. ZCM Costume Mats writes, thoughts on the 1973 film Soylent Green with Charlton Heston? Soylent Green is people. Soylent Green is people. It's great. It reminds me a lot of How to Serve Man. It's a cookbook. It reminds me a lot about that. As far as concept, it was a movie that was kind of ahead of its time. Now, I haven't seen Soylent Green probably in like 20 years. I watched it when I was younger, but it was never one of my top favorite movies or anything. I think it was an okay movie. It's an okay movie with a great kind of twist, with a great story hook, and it was executed okay. I've never thought it was a great classic movie. It's certainly worth checking out, though. If you've never seen Soylent Green, you should probably check it out. It's people! Anyway, Harris writes, Mr. Campea, sir, I'm going for it. Detective Pikachu 1 billion worldwide. That's ambitious. Now calm down if I'm right. Do we get to see a breakdancing video? No, you will never see a breakdancing video of mine. I think only one exists, and I'm never going to let it out of the vault. I actually used to breakdance for money. Wrap your heads around that. I used to breakdance for money. I used to win breakdancing competitions. I know, as stupid as it is to believe, it's true, considering I can't even do the Charlton two-step anymore. But yeah, I had the Adidas windbreakers thing, top to bottom. I used to spin guys on my head, the whole kind of bit. It was really weird. But I mean, hey, who knows? I think a lot of things have to happen for Pikachu to make $1 billion. But again, all I'm going to caution everybody is don't fall back on but the property is so popular. We've seen that happen many times and nothing come out of it. Let's see how good the movie is. Once we see how good the movie is or bad the movie is, then let's give some guesses. But I think joining the $1 billion club is a little bit of a reach. I think that's that's a big reach. I just don't see it happening. But never say never. Anything is possible. All right. Reciphering rights. Better co-host chemistry. Che and Jost for the Emmys in 2018, the Saturday Night Live guys. Or Faye and Poehler. Oh, that's easy. Faye and Poehler. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler were fire. Absolute fire. They were some of the best awards, despite the fact that it was on a stupid, useless, pointless show like the Golden Globes. They were awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I'm not taking anything away from the Saturday Night Live news guys. I'm not taking anything away from them at all. But Faye and Poehler killed it. For a couple of years, they killed it. And some of the best hosting we've ever seen at award shows. Seriously, some of the best ever. Their stuff was freaking hilarious. So I'll give them the nod on that. All right. ZCM Zombie Customer App writes, Overlord was so much fun. I agree. I had a lot of fun with it. It's a shame not a lot of people went to go see it. It felt like a crowd pleaser too. Those actors were great. The actors were great, as a matter of fact. And it did really kind of tank. How much did it end up making? It ended up making, where is it? Oh, God. $38 million. And that's worldwide. 20 domestically, 17 internationally, $38 million total. 38.6 to be specific. That is exactly its budget, not counting the 1/3 of that money that stays with the theaters, plus probably the $30 or $40 million they put into marketing it. They didn't spend like $100 million marketing this film. They probably put a good 30 into it. This is a movie that lost them probably about $40 million. Probably lost the studio about $40 million. And you're absolutely right. It's a shame because it really was a fun little film. It was like, I had some expectations for it because I was having a good time with the trailers. I've always said it felt like Wolfenstein 3D, the movie, to me. So I had modest expectations. I had a little bit of expectations, but the movie exceeded my expectations. It was better than I thought it would be. And I thought it was kind of thrilling, and they start off with the guys in the air, and I thought it was good. I had a good time. Is it a $500 million film? No, but it certainly deserved better than $38 million. Certainly deserved better than that. And what really sucks is these clever little films, and it's a very modestly budgeted film at $38 million. I lament that people don't go out and support these films, because the more and more these films, the studios try making these films and people don't support it, the less and less they're going to make these films, which is really unfortunate. It's really, really sad. But I agree. It was a pretty damn fun movie. Tom Grucut writes, what's the most popular sport in the world? The most popular? Oh, that's easy. It's soccer. This is certainly not my favorite sport in the world, but I mean, no doubt that soccer is easily the most popular sport in the world by a mile. And it's hard for us in North America to wrap our heads around it because soccer's not that big here. It's like the number 5 or the number 6 sport here, but there's just no question at all. Worldwide, it's soccer by a mile. Like way ahead of football, way ahead of baseball, way ahead of basketball. As painful as it is for me to say, way ahead of hockey. But not so much here, but yeah, easily the most popular sport in the world is soccer. That's not even an opinion thing. That's just a fact. Gabriel Reed writes, the new guy is underrated. Thoughts? Are you talking about that one with Elijah Dushku? Or Dushku? How do you say her name? I keep forgetting how to say her name. And what's her name? New girl, Zoe Deschanel. Because that's the only one, the one from like 2000 or 2001, something like that. No. I mean, look. Hey, film is subjective, and if you love it, awesome. I'm right there. I'm all for it if you love it. That's great. But I never thought that movie was any good. Even back in the day when I watched it, I never thought that movie was any good. So, me personally, I do not think it's an underrated film. But if you like it, that's all that matters, man. And I just keep loving it. Just keep loving it. All right. Orange Hand writes, the most important question, why is the rum gone? Oh, that's a Pirates of the Caribbean. Why is the rum gone? Where's the rum? I mean, look, bag on Johnny Depp all we want. Some not so legitimately. Some criticism very legitimate. But you can't get away that maybe they went to the well too many times. Maybe they beat it to death. But Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow is now Hollywood Hall of Fame. Everybody will remember Captain Jack Sparrow as created by and played by Johnny Depp. That is an all-time character. And say what you will about how good or bad all the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels were and whether or not they went too far with it and all the other drama with Johnny Depp outside of the movies, there's just no escaping. That's an all-time classic character. All-time classic character. Let's see here. David Bett Sharhad writes, do you think if Aquaman is good, may it make Justice League a better experience retrospectively? I don't think so. And that's me as somebody who already likes the movie. But, a lot of people talk about how, this movie made that other one better, or this movie made that other one worse. And I think 99% of the time that's BS. That's not really the case. I think there are the very, very rare exception that maybe there's something to be said for that. But by and large, that's just not the case. Justice League is still Justice League. Aquaman doesn't come out and suddenly change things that happen in Justice League. It's still the same movie. So, and this is as a guy who likes Justice League. And I am fully expecting Aquaman to be really good. But I would probably lean towards that. No, I don't think, and by the way, the opposite is true as well. I think if, Aquaman sucks balls, I think if Aquaman is terrible, it doesn't make Justice League any worse. And I think if Aquaman is the greatest film of all time, I don't think it makes Justice League any better. The only positive thing I can see kind of happening is that somebody who never saw Justice League watches Aquaman, loves it, goes back and watches Justice League, and now enjoys it a little bit more than maybe they would have if they watched it earlier because they already love Aquaman. You know what I mean? But for those of us who have seen Justice League already, I don't think a great Aquaman nor a terrible Aquaman would affect what we think of that movie. That's just my thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe for some of you guys, your mileage may vary and you'll have a unique individual experience, but I think for the most part, it won't change it much. But that's just my opinion. All right. Corey Timmons writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, man. Have you seen Aquaman broke Atom ticket sales records for the first 24 hours, beating Infinity War? Wow, that is shocking. Have a great day. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Corey. And yes, I knew about that. We actually talked about it on the John Campea Show. But there's a couple of asterisks we got to put beside that just to keep it in context, okay? Asterisk number one, Atom Tickets is a growing company right now. I mean, they've been around for a while, but they've really been trying to do a big push recently. So it's not that big of a deal that a newer movie outsells a previous movie because Atoms is getting bigger and bigger. But that's the minor issue. The main asterisk we have to keep beside here is the fact that this is a special screening happening a full week before the movie opens in theaters. That was not the case with the first tickets of the first 24 hours for Infinity War. That wasn't the case. This Aquaman screening that they were selling tickets for was that Amazon Prime special screening, one night only, a week before the movie opens. Boom, this big special event, right? So I'm not taking away, because I talked about it on the John Campea Show, it's impressive. I'm not taking away from the impressiveness of Aquaman making that much money in its opening, 24 hours ticket sales. But you can't look at that with a straight face without also putting that little disclaimer in there but it was for selling tickets for a special event that was one night only, a week before the movie opens. You gotta have that asterisk beside there. So while it's still impressive, it would have been more impressive if it was a Fandango record, right? Fandango sells a lot more tickets than Atom Tickets does. And it would have been more impressive if it wasn't a special event. If they just sold the record number of tickets in 24 hours for Aquaman's opening night, that would have been more impressive. But I think you have to look at the Infinity War sales and the Aquaman special event sales as kind of two separate things. Because again, it's not an apples to apples comparison. Still impressive. And I cannot wait to see it. And I'm one of the guys who bought tickets on Atom Tickets for that special, week in advance kind of screening for it. So we'll see how that all turns out. All right, Gabe Schembarger writes, where did Gabe go? There he is. A hero can be anyone, even someone doing something as simple as putting a coat around a young boy's shoulders to let him know the world hasn't ended. One of the better lines in not the best Batman movie, but in The Dark Knight Returns. The Dark Knight Rises, I should say. Very, very good line in not Christopher Nolan's best Batman film. I'm not saying Dark Knight Rises was a bad film. Not at all. I think it's a good film. I think it's good. But I also don't think it comes anywhere near Batman Begins or The Dark Knight. I think those ones are like head and shoulders above Dark Knight Rises. But Dark Knight Rises certainly had its moments, and it's a good film. But that was absolutely, Gabe, one of the most special. That was a great line. Great line. Let's see. Is Melvin Vargas writes, loved Creed 2. I do feel that after Rocky 5, each sequel after it had to redeem an aspect that it failed in. I don't know about that because not a lot of people saw Rocky 5. Hold on a second here. Rocky 5 only made like $119 million worldwide. So it's not like this was a movie that sold $800 million in tickets and everybody in the world saw it and blah, 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 blah. So I don't know. I will say this, though. It's the only bad Rocky movie because they did Rocky 5 and people thought they were crazy to do a Rocky 6 after it. But Rocky 6, which was just called Rocky Balboa, was a magnificent movie. Such a great follow-up. Such a great follow-up. Despite the fact that, Rocky's brain damage, let's just pretend it doesn't exist. And the Athletic Commission gives him a license to fight the heavyweight champion of the world. Let's just do that. It was crazy. But Rocky 6 is an incredibly emotional, wonderful, uplifting, fabulous movie. I loved Rocky 6. Then Creed comes out, awesome. Creed 2, I don't think Creed 2 is as good as Creed 1, but it's definitely really good. I had a very good time watching Creed 2. I don't know if I would say that, they have gone on to redeem certain aspects of Rocky 5. I don't think that was any part of their ambition or their goals. I think a lot of people have never even seen Rocky 5, don't even remember Rocky 5. When did it even come out? 1990? So Rocky 5 was 27 years ago, 28 years ago. Nobody cares about Rocky 5. I don't think they care about redeeming it. But, man, it's crazy. When you think about this Rocky universe, there have been 8 films in this Rocky universe. And only one of them hasn't been good. Rocky 1, best picture of the year. Rocky 2, a lot of people think was even better. Rocky 3, I pity the fool. Rocky 4 with Drago. Rocky 5, Rocky Balboa, amazing. Creed 1, amazing. Creed 2, really good. It's an impressive, it's got to be considered. When you look at that, 8 films, and maybe only one of them was a disappointment. That's impressive, man. That's really, really impressive. Let's move on here. Murray Reich writes, saw Widows yesterday, was great. Viola Davis stole the show. Widows and Green Book are kind of in the same boat with me. They're both films that I had ridiculously high expectations for. And both of them did not live up to those expectations, yet they are both fabulous and exceptional films nonetheless. It's just that my expectations for those films were like automatic Oscar winners. That was my expectations were way too high for both. And I loved Green Book. Not my automatic film of the year. Although National Board of Review just named it film of the year, but I disagree, but whatever. Widows, same thing. Widows ended up being terrific. Viola Davis is always awesome in everything she's in. Like I said, just didn't quite live up to my expectations, but still, regardless of that, it was fantastic. All right. Chris Warden writes, despite all the growing pains, I'm loving the new studio. Thank you so much, man. In my opinion, it's your ability to combine serious film punditry with fun, sweaty nerd talk that keeps people watching. Keep it up, and the success will continue. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate that. And, I've always wanted to do Sports Center for movies. That's always been what I've wanted to do. And when you really watch the great sports broadcasters, because I'm a big sports guy, when you really watch the great sports broadcasters, there is a part of that. There is like sweaty, geeky sports fans with analytical, kind of more level-headed, analysis-thinking minds. And they don't try to do one or the other. They're both and, you know? And whether or not I succeed or fail at it, that's up for you to decide. But it is what I've always tried to do, is take that sweaty, like, nerd movie geek part of me with the, you know, the analytical, tries to be step back and look at it from an objective point of view and be level-headed all the same time, and then do both of them at the same time. That's what I try to do. Again, what level of success or failure I do it, that's up for you to decide, but it is what I try to do. And I'm really, thank you for your comments, man. I appreciate it. That makes me feel good that you would say that. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on here. Mitchell, where'd we go? Mitchell Biller writes, if Birds of Prey was directed by Wes Anderson, title could work. Any chance if the movie is quirky enough that people could turn around on the title? No, and it doesn't matter. Of course, we're talking about the fact that the Birds of Prey title is Birds of Prey, and what was it? The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn? Is that the title? The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. It's a dumb title, but who cares? Even if they gave that movie the greatest title in the world, it doesn't make the movie 1 ounce better. And even if they gave the movie the worst title in history, and this isn't the worst title in history, but even if it was the worst title in history, it doesn't make the movie, and it won't make the movie 1 ounce worse. Right? So I don't really care. So no, it does not matter what you do in this movie. It will not change my mind that this is a bad title. But it also doesn't change the fact that it doesn't matter if it's a bad title. All that it matters is it a good movie? Is it a good movie? That's the only thing that matters. So I won't care. I won't matter. As long as I go see it, and if I like it, it's all that matters. But no, I don't think anything's going to make people change their minds about the title. There are people out there that like the title. And it doesn't matter what the movie does. You're not going to change their minds that they like the title. And there's people like me who don't like the title. It doesn't matter what the movie does. It's not going to change the fact that it's a title. But the title and the movie are two different things. So I really don't mind it either way. Is it bad? Yeah. Do I care? Nah. Doesn't turn me off the movie. Not in the least. Manny Mizuta writes, BOP title, I'm assuming you mean Birds of Prey. Guys, please don't just send in acronyms. Please write the titles, because quite often people just send in acronyms and I don't know what you're talking about. The only reason I know what we're talking about Birds of Prey is because we're just coming off another Birds of Prey question. Anyway, Birds of Prey title might be because Joker will appear. I mean, it's possible. Again, that doesn't change the fact that it's a dumb title. It's still a dumb title. And the emancipation of One Harley Quinn, you assume that means the emancipation of Harley Quinn from the Joker. That's my assumption. Maybe they mean it's from something else, but that's what I think. Like getting her away and out of the grips and out of that, destructive, codependent, toxic relationship with the Joker that I just loved in Suicide Squad, and I love seeing it on screen. But yeah, I don't doubt that that's probably something. I'm not going to be surprised at all if and when they announce Jared Leto is going to be in this movie as the Joker. I won't be surprised at all. Okay. Casinema Reviews writes, where'd he go? Casinema Reviews writes, Captain Marvel's doing reshoots. Everybody panic. Yeah, again, it's amazing to me that there are still people out there who they hear movies going in for reshoots and they go, oh my God, something's wrong. Guys, this isn't even a new thing. This is old. Everybody should know this by now. Every big budget film schedules in advance reshoots. They all plan it in advance. Every single Marvel, like Kevin Feige talked about this like years ago, about how, yes, we plan and schedule our reshoots for every movie we do. Because, these are big budget movies. We want to make sure they're as good as possible. And you never really know till you shoot it and you watch it on a screen that you get some new ideas and how you can tweak this. And we plan in advance to go in and do reshoots for it. That's every big budget movie these days. And Captain Marvel is no exception. Aquaman did reshoots. Avengers 4 had reshoots. Spider-Man Far From Home is going to have reshoots. Every big budget major film Plans reshoots in advance. Nothing to get upset over. Nobody. Devontae Brown writes, I was not looking to be mad. I would just take his comments as weird, stupid statements, but it's that part about Trump that has many pissed too. I'm assuming we're going back to the Bill Maher stuff, Devontae. Again, who cares? Who cares? Honestly, who cares? He could have talked, I mean, it doesn't matter what he said. I have to ask anybody who makes an issue out of this, who cares? It's some guy who wrote something on his blog that is not connected to the film industry on a day-by-day basis that we never talk about and we never care about. But, he said something about Stan Lee that isn't in line with something we think about Stan Lee, so let's make a big issue out of it. It's pointless. It's pointless. I just have no idea. And you know what I said in my show, I stand by. In the first show that I talked about this, I said, we might as well be talking about something that Larry the plumber in Toledo said about Stan Lee, because it's just as relevant. Go get Larry the plumber out of Toledo, because his thoughts and opinions about Stan Lee are just as relevant. Zero, but just as relevant as what Bill Maher has to say about Stan Lee. We're only getting upset about it because we want to be mad. We want to be outraged at something and at somebody. And he just made himself a target, so there, let's go do that. So you always care about what Bill Maher says? No. You give some level of importance to the things Bill Maher says? No. Then why do you give 2 squirts of urine what Bill Maher said about Stan Lee, or that comic books are for kids and not adults? Why do you give 2 squirts of piss about it? You never care about what he says about anything else. You've never talked about him in your daily life. You don't give a second thought to who that person is ever. But now all of a sudden it's important about something that he said. Oh, because it's something that you don't agree with, and it's over an issue we're just looking to be mad at, and it feels good to be outraged. So we feel better about ourselves when we can be outraged at something else. It's a human thing. It's a stupid thing about us, but it is a true thing about us as human beings. We feel better about ourselves when we're outraged at something, and we get to express outrage. It makes us feel better, and it makes us feel superior, I guess. We all do it. We all do it. But I do believe that is this situation. It is not important what Bill Maher said about Stan Lee. It's just not. We never talk about Bill Maher. We never care what Bill Maher says. Oh, but now he said this. And he said it on his blog, and we're going to drag it out from the blog, and we're going to talk about it everywhere and spread it around. I like that sound. Anyway. Jap28 writes, Nick Cage and your Holy Trinity of movies. How about The Wicker Man? Yikes. Well, yeah, The Wicker Man is terrible. Make no mistake. The Wicker Man is a terrible, terrible movie. But it still does not make my Trinity. I have what I call the Unholy Trinity, which is the absolute worst wide-release big Hollywood films in history. And to me, they are, without exception, in no particular order, Catwoman, The Highlander 2, The Quickening, and Battlefield Earth. To me, no major Hollywood wide-release film has ever cracked that unholy trinity like those 3 films have. Even The Wicker Man. But I mean, if you were going to have the next tier down of movies knocking on the door trying to get into that unholy trinity, Wicker Man would be on that tier. Absolutely, because it is wretchedly bad. Wretchedly bad. All right. Der Wunderbar writes, put up Daffy Duck, John, the house god of frustration. I'll be honest with you, Der Wunderbar, I have no idea what we're talking about. Sorry about that, man. Kalis Menon writes, I feel like since the backlash of The Last Jedi, Star Wars fans feel like they have let down the same way they were for the prequels. Back to square. Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. You got to remember, the prequels were 3 films in a row that had everybody going, what the hell, what the hell, what the hell? For the most part, people loved The Force Awakens. People loved The Force Awakens. And then people loved Rogue One. And then came The Last Jedi, which is divisive. I still contend Last Jedi is quite a good film. I have my issues with it. Canto Bight, the misuse of the Benicio del Toro character, the misuse of the John Boyega character, the misuse of the Rose character, the misuse. I mean, I have issues with the movie for sure. And it is my least favorite of this new batch of Star Wars films. I still thought it was good strictly because I thought what they did with Luke Skywalker was brilliant. But look, we've seen statistics over and over and over again say the vast majority of people like The Last Jedi. But there's a lot of people that don't, a significant number of people that don't. It is a divisive film. There's no doubt about it. It's a divisive film. But it's one film. When the prequels were coming out, it wasn't divisive. I mean, it was like an avalanche of negative response, and then people kept trying to go back. And then there were some people like me that just tried to fool myself into thinking I liked it at first. But the more I saw it, the more I realized, no, this movie's just bad. And hey, that's us. We're human. That's human nature. It happens. But I don't agree. I think there are some people that are like that, but I think there are some people who felt that in Return of the Jedi. I think there are some people who feel like Return of the Jedi let us down. Obviously not a lot of people, but there are some people that felt that way, for sure. I think The Last Jedi is the greatest Star Wars movie ever made, but there are people who felt let down by it. Okay. And I have no doubt there are people out there who feel that way about The Last Jedi. Fair enough. But to try to compare the result of that one movie, especially when after that, Solo, a really good, fun adventure movie. They put out a quality movie with Solo. It did not do well at the box office, but they put out a quality movie. To try to compare that situation to the situation of the prequels makes me suspect that people who are saying that are too young to remember what was going on when the prequels came out. So that's just my thought on it. But yeah, there's no getting around it, man. Last Jedi is a divisive film. Much like, Justice League was a divisive film, much like Suicide Squad's a divisive film, Last Jedi is a divisive film. There's no getting around it. But to try to compare that scenario to that of the prequels, I would have to ask, how old somebody was that suggested that, because I just don't think a lot of them, not all of them, there would be exceptions, but I have to suspect a lot of them weren't actually at least 20 years old or more when the prequels came out and actually understood the type of disillusionment that happened with the Star Wars fans at that time. But anyway, that's just kind of my point on it. Aram writes, Mary F. Kill, RDJ, Chris Hemsworth, C. Evans. Well, since that is not my persuasion, I can't really play that game. Alex Von Gollum writes, hey, John, was wondering if at any point in time you had to convince Anne that what you do is a real job, like what you've done with your mother-in-law. By the way, I'm still not convinced my mother-in-law is convinced that I have a real job. I am still not convinced that my mother-in-law is convinced that I have a real job. Just the way it is. But no, Anne actually got it right away. You got to understand, because I met Anne at an industry party with a movie with Milo Ventimiglia, who plays Rocky's son in Rocky Balboa, and he's an Emmy Award-winning actor now for This Is Us. He's the main guy in This Is Us, and he's awesome. And he played Peter Petrelli in Heroes, which was great. She was a big Milo Ventimiglia fan, came to this party that I helped organize for the wrapping and the releasing of this new Milo Ventimiglia movie at the time called Pathology. Fun little film. If you've never seen it, check it out. Pathology with Milo Ventimiglia. And I'm there. So I met Anne at this thing where I'm the party organizer and Milo Ventimiglia knows me, and she's a big fan of Milo Ventimiglia. So right away, she knew there was some legitimacy to what I do and that what I do is a real job. Her mother, not so much. 9 years, I still don't have her on that. I don't think I still to this day have Anne's mom on board with that. That's just my situation. All right, Kara Black writes, let's see. You need to listen to your fans. It takes more than 5 minutes to get used to a controller. Have some patience. Don't be a quitter. Man, I get so frustrated trying to use. I did my first live stream today. For those of you who are watching, whenever you're watching this Saturday afternoon, I did my first live stream of me playing a PS4 game, and I played Spider-Man. It was not pretty, my friends. It was not pretty because at the base of it, I cannot get my head around one controller to move, one controller to turn the camera. I'm used to my mouse just doing that, right? That's how I'm used to. And it's still crazy to me. People keep telling me, but John, using a mouse and keyboard for a video game is harder. You should be able to find it easy with it. And it's like, that's cool that you think a keyboard and mouse is harder. To me, it's second nature. I think the mouse and keyboard is much easier, much more intuitive way to control a video game. And you find a controller easier. That's great. I cannot get my brain to wire properly to control like that. It's just a mess. So I put up my first live stream, my first playing chat, playing a Spider-Man game, and it was not pretty. You want to see somebody suck at a video game? Go watch that video. But I'm still trying. I'm trying to get used to it. I am very much trying to get used to it. I'm just not making much progress. Basim F writes, so if the Infinity Stones were formed at the beginning of the universe, and there are infinite universes, then are there infinite Infinity Stones? Interesting question. Could there be other Infinity Stones that could be brought over from other realities? Possibly. It does create a bit of a mess. That's why I don't like not Elseworld. I don't like multiverse stuff very much. I don't like multiverse stuff. To me, there's too many inherited contradictions within that because, hey, if Doctor Strange knows there's infinite universes, hey, just jump over to another universe, grab those Infinity Stones, come back and fight Thanos with your Infinity Stones. Yay! But it's just multiverse stuff to me. And don't get me wrong, some great stories have been written in comic books over the years using multiverse. For the most part, I find it annoying. And the CW verse is using multiverse stuff, and for the most part, I find it pretty annoying. But it just creates too many inherited contradictions that people just seem to gloss over, and that's fine. But because what you bring up there, Bass, is a very legitimate thing. Hey, there are millions of Infinity Stones out there. Just go gather them up, man. Just go get those. Casey Gould writes, where am I? John, do I need to fly out to Cali and teach you how to play a PS4? Console forever. I need somebody to teach me how to play a PS4, man, because I just suck at it. Pablo Diablo writes, who said it? Red light, green light, helicopter explodes. Can't think of it off the top of my head. I might think of it later and go, oh, of course. But off the top of my head, I don't know, Pablo, to be honest with you. Charlie15Z writes, do you think if Robin Williams were still alive, Disney would have gotten him back for Aladdin the same way they got Jones back for Mufasa? Great question. It all depends on this. It seems like with Lion King, they want to make a very true to the spirit of the original 2D animated film. And they wanted to stay very close to the spirit of that. Bringing back James Earl Jones to Mufasa works with that, and it contributes to that. If Disney is making Aladdin with the same goal in mind, to make a very familiar feeling live action Aladdin compared to the traditional 2D Aladdin, if Disney's goal, and we don't know this, but if their goal is to make a very familiar feeling Aladdin in this live action movie, then I would have to say yes. If you're trying to make it feel familiar to the 2D version and not trying to do something new and fresh and completely original, whatever, if you're trying to make something that feels very familiar and pull on that nostalgia feel, who do you get to replace Robin Williams? If Robin Williams is still alive today? Nobody. So my guess, Charlie, and we'll never know, unfortunately, my guess is absolutely they would have gotten Robin Williams back to do it. Absolutely they would have got him back to do it. Now, if we see Aladdin and we see that they were actually going for something different, I mean, it's the classic Aladdin story and some very familiar elements, but we're still going for a different feel, then maybe they wouldn't have. Maybe they still go with the Will Smith or they get somebody else or whatever. I don't think, all I know is this, Gilbert Gottfried isn't doing Iago, so I'm just guessing Iago's not going to be part of the movie, but whatever. But yeah, so it all really depends. It comes down to that one pivotal question that we will not know until we see the movie. Are they going for a very nostalgic, very familiar feel, but in a new medium of live action. If that is the case, if we come out of the cinemas after that movie airs and we watch it and all that kind of stuff, and that's how we feel, then my guess has got to be that yes, no doubt, yes, they would have gotten Robin Williams back to do it. But again, we won't be able to answer that question until we see the movie, but if that's how it turns out, I'm going to say yes. I'm upset writes, more likely Cars 4, well, they're never going to do a Cars 4 now that John Lasseter's not there, because Cars was always John Lasseter's baby. Now that he's not there, you're never going to see a Cars 4, at least not on the big screen. Monsters, Inc. 3 or Bugs Life 2. I think Bugs Life is now a dead franchise. You're never going to see a Bugs Life 2. Monsters, Inc. I don't think we're going to see a Monsters, Inc. 3. But if you're asking which is most likely out of a Cars 4, Bugs Life 2, or Monsters, Inc. 3, then that's easy. The most likely is Monsters, Inc. 3. The real answer is I don't think we're going to see any of them. But if one of them had a better chance than the other two, it's clearly Monsters, Inc. 3. Robert Perez writes, I'll buy your PlayStation from you, because I'm ready just to get rid of this PlayStation. Alt Productions writes, give PlayStation 4 some time. You'll get used to it. It's worth it. I don't know, man. I've been trying for a few days now. I still feel like I'm not getting it. You know what I mean? I just want my games on my PC. I still feel like I'm not getting it, but I haven't given up on it yet. I'm going to keep trying. And we'll see how it goes. Adam Beavers writes, awesome show. Thank you so much, Adam. Seen Creed. Loved the movie. Me too. I had a great time with it. Soundtrack was so good. Old Rocky music mixed with today's hip hop gave me goosebumps. Yeah, I mean, and the first Creed did that as well. I think there are times that it worked better than other times. I don't think it worked across the board, but there are certainly some of those goosebump moments, Adam. There are certainly some of those goosebump moments when they did do an amalgamation of the classic stuff with some more contemporary stuff, and it worked really well. And there were a couple of moments when it didn't work as well for me, but overall, it was a real nice blend. And I think they actually did a little bit better in the first Creed than the second Creed, but whatever. Bottom line is, Creed 2 is a great cinematic experience. I had a wonderful time with it. All right. Rodell Oruna writes, District 9, one of my favorite sci-fi films. Did you like it? Oh, I love District 9. I thought it was great. Unfortunately, over the years, it's starting to look like District 9 may have been a fluke for director Neill Blomkamp, because then he did Elysium that looked great and ended up being terrible. Then he did Chappie, which was just awful. Then he was going to do that Aliens film, and Fox pulled the rug out from under him on that. It'll be interesting to see if he gets another shot at a big screen adaptation film. It'll be interesting to see, but none of that takes away from the fact that I thought District 9 was great. I love District 9. And I've always kind of pissed that they just didn't go back and do District 10. I mean, when you watch District, they clearly end District 9 wide open for a follow-up film. There are so many different directions they could go with a follow-up film to that. And they left some major, big, wide open doors. And for whatever reason, they never went back to do it. I'll never understand that. I always wish they had. But yeah, I really like District 9. Sign me up as... and remember, it was nominated for Best Picture. It might have been the first year. I can't remember specifically. But I think it might have been the first year that they had more than 5 nominees for Best Picture, and District 9 snuck in there and was nominated for Best Picture. I thought it was a really solid film. Adam Beavers writes, and what is your favorite movie in the Rocky/Creed universe? My favorite is Rocky 3 with Clubber Lang. Similar how Creed 2 played out. For me, it's easy Rocky 4. Even though Rocky 1 is probably the definitive best of the bunch, I mean, it did win Best Picture at the Oscars. My all-time favorite is going to be Rocky 4, always and forever. I must break you. Go for it. I mean, I love Rocky 4. You know, I love Rocky 4. You know, the death of Apollo Creed, the training montage in the Russian wilderness will always be, to me, the best Rocky training montage. And Rocky films have had some great training montages, but that one will always be the best for me. So for me, I got to go Rocky 4 as my favorite. Let's see here. Stella Baker writes, hey, John, can I buy the PS4 off you? I'll pay the price you paid plus shipping. My boyfriend really wants one, but I can't afford full price. I bought the PlayStation 4 with a really great deal. the day after Black Friday. They still had like great deals on. And I got a PlayStation 4 Pro, not the regular one, PlayStation 4 Pro with Red Dead Redemption 2 as a bundle for $299, which is like a full $100 cheaper than what you could get it anywhere else. And I don't know if it was a mistake. I don't know if it was fluke, but that's what I got it for. And I snatched it up and I bought it, but I'm still holding on to it, Stella. Still trying to see if I can get used to it. Judy Khalil writes, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Judy. I appreciate that. ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes, where'd he go? There he is. I have a friend who believes that there are films that are deserved to be made because he thinks they're important, like 12 Years a Slave, 3 Billboards. I don't know. Look, the film business is a business. You make movies that you think you can get people to come out to and see and maybe make you money. That's what movies are all about. That's what the film business is all about. I don't know that any film deserves to get made. That implies obligation. And I don't believe in that. I don't believe anybody is obligated to make a movie about anything, right? To say that something deserves to be made implies that you are obligated to make that movie. And I just don't believe that. I don't believe in that. And whether a movie is important or not really depends on if it turns out well. Because I'll say this, is 12 Years a Slave an important movie? Yes. But if the movie had sucked, would it still be important? No. You know? Roots was an important production. But it was great. Had it sucked, would it still be important? No. I believe like a film or a project's importance is not just measured by what is it based on, but also needs to be measured by how do people respond to it? And is it good enough to get that kind of response from people? Right? That's how I kind of see that. So on that basis, does anything deserve to be made? No. Are there things out there that have great potential? Yes. Deserved? I'm not so sure. Then again, ZCM, we could just be talking about semantics here. I mean, maybe we're just talking about semantics, but that's just how I kind of see it right now. Okay, next one. And this is the last question I'm going to take today, and then we'll wrap it up. Hector Jeter writes, rewatched Lion King. It amazes me that a 2D cartoon can give me so many feels and chills in that opening. I was 7 when it came out. Do you remember your reaction when you saw it the first time? Oh, I do. I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly who I was with. And I remember seeing that for the first time. And it was amazing. Like when the song ended, when Circle of Life ended, Circle, Circle of Life, boom. And then the title comes up. It's like, oh, I didn't want it to end. I could have stood that movie being 2 hours of that. It was so good. But here's the thing, Hector. And I think this drives it home. It's not the medium that gives you chills. It's not whether it's traditional 2D animation, live action, CGI animation. That's not what gives anything its oomph. It's the story. And what you're doing on screen, not the medium in which you're doing it in, that delivers those chills. And I think that Lion King opening is a great example of that. If you tell the right story in the right way, you could do page flip animation with stick men telling you. If you're telling the right story, it'll still give you chills. It'll still give you chills because it's all about the story. And then a good director will leverage the medium they're working in, traditional 2D animation, live action, CGI animation, some kind of hybrid, whatever. But that's just the tool, right? You do that opening in CGI animation, like this Lion King looks like it's going to do. It's going to deliver those same chills. You do it in live action, if somehow you can train the animals to do it, it's going to still deliver those same chills. So, yeah, man. And yet another reason why I think that this Lion King movie, I'm telling you guys, has very much the potential to beat Avengers Infinity War to be the #1 box office film of 2019. I think it's a naive position to not acknowledge that it's possible that this movie could beat Infinity War. It's possible. There are other films that it's not possible. You know, Toy Story 4 is not going to beat Infinity War, right? Hellboy is not going to beat Infinity War, yada, yada, yada. But I think it is a naive position to not acknowledge that Lion King absolutely has the potential to beat Avengers 4. Because both Lion King and Avengers 4 get the hardcore fans out, and they both get the casual movie-going fans out. Awesome. Big success. But what Lion King then has going for it that Avengers 4 does not is that it's also going to get out people who don't even go to the movies normally. That's the third quadrant there. They're going to get people going to see, there are going to be lots of people going to Lion King who do not even go to the movies normally in a year. Does that mean it will beat Infinity War? I'm not ready to say that. But again, I just believe it is a naive position to not acknowledge the possibility that Lion King could. So we're just going to have to wait and see. All right, guys, that will do it for this installment of the companion videos. Listen, there are still other questions. You can see Angry Irish Benjamin has one there. We still got a bunch of ones that we have to get to, but we'll get to that in another companion video later this weekend. Keep your eyes open for that. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks so much for being here. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.